Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Blue, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
As a team, we got to continue to get better offensively. We got some guys doing some nice things, but there's 9 hitters in there, and they all have a role, and we got to get some guys on base in front of the meat of our lineup.
It's strange that it's my 6th year and it's taken this long, but it's just the way it is. And, I mean, in some ways that's going to happen. You're going to have older players that lead you in scoring. We've had that. Certainly the KJ's absence is one of the things that hurt us a little bit this year.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Wednesday night from downtown Columbia. Exciting time of the year. A couple of more NCAA tournament games tonight in Dayton. You've got press conferences around the country today at the regional sites that will begin play tomorrow. More of the same tomorrow with press conferences, and then more games on Friday here in Columbia tomorrow. Press conferences leading up to the first round of play at the NCAA Women's Tournament featuring South Carolina. Just a busy, busy time. Last night, baseball, big night for the Big South. Winthrop takes it to USC. Coastal does the same to Clemson. Just goes to show you can't roll the ball, bats out there on any night and expect to win a baseball game. And it happened to both the Gamecocks and the Tigers last night. So congratulations to Winthrop and Coastal for very good wins for those two teams last night. Tonight on Sports Talk, very, very busy program for you. We've got our brackets ready. We'll talk about that. And hopefully you've gone to our Bojangles Bracket Buster and gotten your bracket in. If not, do so. You still have time till the first game is played tomorrow. And we thank the hundreds of you who have gone in and done so far. Take part in the fun. Maybe you'll win a terrific prize from Bojangles if you have a bracket that is good enough. So we'll talk about our brackets. Brad Brownell, Clemson coach, will join us at the bottom of the hour. Big day for Clemson as state government gave final approval to the money to redo Littlejohn Coliseum and basically just tear it down and start all over again. So that's got to make Brad Brownell happy. We'll talk with him about that coming up. More from USC's first day of spring football yesterday. We'll hear from co-defensive coordinator Lorenzo Ward, and much, much more on the program tonight here on Sports Talk. 800-956-7266 is our number if you'd like to jump on board quickly. All right, we've all got our brackets done. I took the less is more approach this year.
Oh, did you?
Less thinking, more results. That was my approach. I really didn't.
That seems to be your approach in a lot of things.
Well,
the less thinking part anyway.
Typically, I break it all down. I look at each team's strengths and weaknesses, compare matchups, things of that nature. Not this time. I said, you know what? Let's take the pressure off. Let's relax. Let's just go with our gut instinct and see how we do. You got to trust your gut sometimes.
I do it all the time.
Yeah. So we'll go over our picks on our brackets here coming up in just a little bit, see how they compare with what you've done so far. I thought Ole Miss looked good last night, coming from behind to beat BYU the way they did and hit some big shots in the second half. And that was a good college basketball game. Good to see a game in the 90s for a change. We'll be right back. Got some time for some quick phone calls here early in the program, 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. The website, of course, is sportstalksc.com. Go there to our story on the Bojangles Bracket Buster and click on that story and click on the link to take you right to the site of the Bojangles Bracket Buster competition here on Sports Talk and get your bracket in and see how you do against everybody else who's put a bracket or brackets in there. You're allowed to have up to 10 brackets in the competition. On Twitter, we're at Sports Talk SC, and on Facebook, it is Sports Talk Radio Network. Coming up a little bit, Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell to wrap up the season and talk about some other developments regarding his basketball program. We'll also hear from USC co-defensive coordinator Lorenzo Ward. Dawn Staley, USC women's coach, met with the media today. We'll hear some of her comments about the upcoming regional in Columbia. So we got a lot to get to. Let me update a couple of the top stories of the day. And Steve Spurrier put out his fourth tweet of his life today. And it was to confirm that Travell Wharton is joining his staff working on the offensive side in quality control. The former Gamecock standout lineman who went on to an excellent 11-year NFL career. So they add him to the staff in a quality control way. The news on Lawrence Bryant released by USC this afternoon. The junior linebacker was injured at the end of practice yesterday, will be out the rest of spring. A low-grade liver injury during the practice yesterday.
It was a pretty tough collision. I mean, they were both running across the middle of the field, both on defense, and just smacked. And they both went down in a heap.
Yeah.
Moody got up, but Bryant stayed down. Actually had to move practice up the field past him, and Spurrier stood over him for a good 5 minutes to make sure he's okay, and then the ambulance came and took him off.
Anytime it's the liver is low.
Yeah, and you could tell he was in a lot of pain. I mean, and when we were standing there waiting to go talk to Spurrier, and they were bringing him out on the stretcher, and he was in a lot of pain. Some people thought it was a concussion, but he was alert.
Not down there.
I think the good news is that it wasn't lacerated. Apparently, a lacerated liver can be very dangerous.
Yes.
And so apparently it was not that. And that was good news. He is expected to make a full recovery. He'll be in the hospital until Wednesday at the earliest. All right, what else do we have for you? The Clemson basketball arena. Clemson Athletics received final approval today from the South Carolina Budget and Control Board to begin renovation John Coliseum. The board approved the construction project and issuance of bonds for the project, slated to cost $63.5 million.
No, I'm laughing because when Steve Spurrier first got here, and because South Carolina is a unique state as far as its government is concerned, he said something as if, well, you know, we try to get this project off the ground. I understand we got to go through this, what y'all call it, a budget control because, well, we didn't have one of those down in Florida.
Those are the people that have the purses. $63.5 million financed completely by the athletic department and IPTE. So it's not going to come out of public taxes, which is good. Dan Radakovich says it's an exciting step for the future of the basketball program. They appreciate the approval from the B&C board and the support of the board of trustees. Work on the arena will begin after graduation this spring. They still have to have Little John available for that. The Tigers will play next season at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena, or as they call it up in the upstate, the Well in Greenville.
Okay.
So they have all their ACC games there. South Carolina game will be there. So that should be kind of neat. The Clemson women will play their season at Jervey Gym on the Clemson campus. Tells you where the women's program is if they're playing games at Jervey Gym, which is about 200 years old.
And it's still standing.
It's still standing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the university announced its graduations during the time of construction next year will be held at Bon Secours Wellness Arena. The Little John will reopen in 2015. I'm not sure it'll be called Little John at that time, but it'll be reopened in 2016.
Call it the New John.
The New John, the bigger John.
Yeah, Dan Radakovich. This might be some sort of, I guess, a record. I don't know how many athletic administrators at the major college level has overseen refurbishing of 2 different arenas. I mean, they gutted and rebuilt.
He's a builder.
Arena at
What
Georgia
can we tell
Tech.
you? He's a builder. Dawn Staley, one of the 4 finalists of the Naismith Women's College Coach of the Year Award, announced by the Atlanta Tip-Off Club. And let's see, the others on that list include, name him.
Gino Auriemma.
Correct.
Is one.
Princeton's Courtney Banghart. Florida State's Sue Simraw. That's it. Those are the 4, along with Dawn Staley. Sue Simraw, S-E-M-R-A-U, Simrau. Maybe it's Simrau. Courtney Banghart and Gino Auriemma.
Well, I guess the 2.
One dude, 3 ladies.
Well, you know, the other coach did a great job as the one that, what was this, McIntyre, whatever his name is, in Mississippi State. Because I think the 2 teams that surprised everybody this year was Florida State and Mississippi State. Nobody had any idea they were going to be that good.
And USC and Florida State are in the same side of the bracket. They could meet in Greensboro. And let's see, a couple of things to catch up on here. I missed a story last night, forgot to mention it. Devon Durant, remember him? Out of Greenwood, a junior college linebacker, originally committed to South Carolina, ended up signing with Arizona State, suspended from Arizona State. Coach Todd Graham announced that prior to the start of practice Monday, violation of team rules. However, he didn't go into details, but the Tempe police did. They had a report that Durant was arrested March 7th, allegations of domestic violence and aggravated assault. Police say Durant's girlfriend accused him of hitting her in the face and grabbing her around the neck. He was supposed to have a court hearing today. He enrolled early at Arizona State, but is not listed on the roster that was handed out on Monday. All right, so that's certainly not a good way to start your college career. And, South Carolina Basketball Coaches Association has announced their Hall of Fame selections. And they are Ronnie Dupree, over 30 years of coaching at James Island and West Ashley. Debbie Stroman, one of the great coaches in our state at Lower Richland High School, 7 state championships for her. Joe Pitt, coached at Ware Shoals and also at Union High School, won over 530 games in his career. And Mike Lindsay, girls basketball coach at Berea, and won 320 games in several region championships. So they're going into the Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame. They'll be honored on Friday at Seawells here in Columbia, part of the weekend for the North-South All-Star games coming up this weekend. So we congratulate them. Okay, to my bracket. Here we go. We'll start it here and we'll finish it in a little bit. I've got Kentucky and Notre Dame in the Midwest, with Kentucky advancing. In the West, I've got Arizona, Wisconsin, taking Arizona. In the South, I've got Puke and Iowa State, taking Puke. And in the East, I got Virginia and Louisville, taking Virginia. I got Kentucky and Virginia in the national championship. I've got Kentucky winning 65-60. Anybody dare debate me on that? K-Mac.
I have Kentucky. I mean, how do you not pick Kentucky?
Exactly.
I mean, if Kentucky goes down in the second round, it is just going to absolutely destroy 99% of America's brackets. I mean, if you really wanted to go out on a limb.
Who's your Final Four?
My Final Four is Kentucky, Arizona, Louisville, and Duke.
You got Louisville beating Virginia?
Safe. I do.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things. Yeah, what do? You try to pick some of those upsets. There's going to be upsets in the first couple of rounds, but I think at the end of the day, the cream will rise.
Your Final Four?
Kentucky. Well, Kentucky, Zona, Nova, and Duke. And Kentucky winning it all.
Nova. You like those Eastern schools.
Oh, Nova's tremendous.
I
like
Louisville
their guards.
beating Villanova. I like
Louisville can't score.
Huh?
They can't score.
They're going to find how to score. They'll figure it out. Be right back.
Chris Moody.
Well, after reading a lot of stuff on USC's first spring practice yesterday and listening to a lot of stuff, I'm convinced that Connor Mitch is better than everybody has said that he is based on their limited observation of him. And I'm convinced that it's a different attitude and a different approach to practice at South Carolina based on the physicality of yesterday, the speed at which they were moving around yesterday, and the fact that they're closing the majority of their spring practices. I think there's just a whole new attitude of, not going to say, well, I'll say seriousness, not saying that they weren't taking it seriously before, but I think just a sense of coming off a 7-6 record, the approach is, we got to do better. We got to rebound. It's got to start today. Lorenzo Ward, co-defensive coordinator, one of those who talked with the media after practice yesterday. We talked about Lance Bryant. Here's more from Lorenzo on exactly what happened in that case.
He and Chris Moody hit each other, so they're just going to take him to get him checked out for preliminary reasons. So hopefully he's okay.
You think it's a concussion possible?
No. He got hit in the stomach, got the wind knocked out of him, but they just make sure he didn't tear anything inside.
Whammy, how's this going on here with so many new players and everything?
Oh, well, today, we'll always check the schedule when your first practice. So we'll go in and look at the video and see how we did after that. But, I thought the guys ran around.
What's the opinion on the new practice fields?
Love them. Versatility.
Whammy, on the line, what's it like working with just specifically on drills with these guys and drilling with them?
So again, that's we're only going to be as good as we're up front, and that's part of the reason that Coach Spurrier did the way he did it, and put me up in charge of the front seven. So we'll try to get the front seven better. If we're better up front, we'll be better in the perimeter. So we're only as good as we're up front.
How's it been these past few weeks working with John?
Well, great. John's a great guy. We get along real well, whole staff, and we all have a say so. And John's a good guy.
Way Lewis at the top of the depth chart without even before you ever took the practice snap here. Is that kind of thought they are thinking going in?
Well, again, we have to put somebody out there first, and we didn't have guys that we thought told us to solidify the position last season. So we give everybody a chance.
Were English and Weidman out here today?
No, Darius had class, and Weidman had something academically he had to do. So they both were doing something academic. Oh yeah, they're both people. Yeah, they're both.
What happened to Taylor Stallworth? Going on with
Taylor actually was benching and tore his pec, so he had surgery and he's out this spring.
When did that happen?
Toward the last of his workouts. It was somewhere on the last week or two of his workouts.
Okay.
Wesley Green.
Yeah, he had academic work he had to do also. So
Be back Thursday.
He should be back. So if he's not back, he should be back Friday for sure.
All right, Lorenzo Ward from yesterday. They got to get those players in practice. There's no excuse for these guys missing practice and then being forced, missing classes and then being forced to miss practice.
Yeah,
Come on, guys.
Weidman, that's your first practice.
Yeah.
And you didn't get to play last year because of academics. That's not a good start.
No. And Wesley Green, you should know better, too. You've been there long enough now to understand what it's all about.
Just run the bleachers.
Man, it's not that. You got to sit out practice if you miss classes. Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell. He's going to join us here after the bottom of the hour break. We'll be back. It's Sports Talk from Columbia. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us. Wherever you're dialed in around the state tonight, Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes, K-Mac Kevin McCrary, and the state man Graham Pope. And we're joined by Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell here on the eve of the main draw of the NCAA tournament. I know he wishes he was getting ready for a game in the big dance, perhaps next year. Let's hope so for the Tigers. Coach, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine, but I'm like you said, I'd like to be playing rather than watching.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's begin with the news today that the State Government Budget and Control Board gave the go-ahead on the work at Littlejohn. So I know that was probably expected, but it's always good to get the final approval. Now all you guys know that the work can begin. How excited are you about that, and what the impact is going to be once this work is done?
Well, I'm really excited, and it's been a while coming. We've been hoping for this for a good bit. This is going to be my 6th season at Clemson, and really excited that we're making some moves to show the importance of basketball at Clemson. And I can't thank President Clements and Dan Radakovich, our athletic director, enough for all their hard work and helping to make this a reality. I think it's going to be special. It's going to be nice to get everybody underneath one building, get our offices over there in Little practice facilities and facilities for our players, and then also have a new arena with a better fan experience. So I think it will help in recruiting. I think it'll just help with the momentum of the program, and I'm really excited about it.
Now, from what you've seen of the drawings and the plans, I know Dan had a major hand, I guess, in rebuilding the arena at Georgia Tech, and I love that arena. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's just perfect for Georgia Tech. Will there be similarities? Will this arena that you'll have at Clemson, will it be similar to what they have at Georgia Tech?
Well, there'll be some similarities. I think there'll be it won't look exactly like Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech's very unique in that it's very, very open. I think they're going to make ours much more open than where out on the concourse you'll have a feel for the arena and still have a flavor for the game. And I think there'll be some fan experiences where boosters are going to have a club section that's going to be very good, and going to be a situation where we can raise some money for basketball and provide our some of our best donors a really good experience. We're going to move our students around the court. I think that'll be helpful to get them even a little bit closer. But then it's not going to be completely different than what it is. It'll certainly look different. It'll be a new experience. It'll be much better. But it's not going to change a ton. I think the seating will still be around 9,000, which is just a little smaller and keep it a little bit more intimate. And again, just trying to provide our fans with an even better experience.
So what do you do now, knowing that you're going to be away from the court on campus for next year, having to go play in Greenville? We've seen teams do this before where they had to leave their arena and play somewhere else while the work was being done. And it wasn't always easy on that team to have a successful year. So how do you make things successful next year?
Well, it certainly provides unique challenges, and we're going to be out as soon as May, and it'll be pretty close to 16 months of being out of the building. And as much as anything, it's just the disruption of your day-to-day operations, which I think is a challenge. We'll have to find a locker room space over in Jervey, and I think we'll be practicing a couple different places. We'll practice in Jervey, which is the current volleyball arena that the girls are going to play their games in and share with volleyball. So we'll practice in there a little bit. We'll practice in Fike, the student center. That actually has a pretty good setting with a couple of courts that we could use. And so we'll have to be a little creative in some things here for a year and a half in terms of practice habits and film and all the things that you kind of grow accustomed to. But the sacrifice is well worth it, and it's something that needs to be done for the betterment of the program. It will be exciting to play a year in Greenville and to open up a new fan base, if you will, or at least expose some fans to our play a little bit more regularly than those that are able to make the trip, especially on weeknights when we play weeknight games. It'll just be a little bit easier for those folks, and so might be a little bit more difficult for us, but I still think we can overcome all those things and have a good season. I think we have some good players coming back, and I'm excited about next year.
How will you handle game day next year for your home games since they'll be over in Greenville? Will you go over the day before and stay the night in Greenville and maybe have a shoot around the day before, or just go over on the game? How will you handle that?
Yeah, I think we'll have to play it by ear. I think each situation will be unique. If we happen to have maybe a noon game on a Saturday, we certainly might go over the night before on a Friday night and maybe try to practice there and go out for dinner and then get up and play the next day. Certainly on school days, we'll be going to class in the mornings and then maybe get away in an afternoon for a shoot around and then just have to kind of have a day rate in the hotel for the afternoon and then get there for the game. So I think we'll have to adjust a little bit as we go, but there'll be some unique challenges that our team will have to overcome, but I think with the right attitude, we can do it.
Now that you've had a little while to digest the season, how do you think this past year's team developed over the course of the season, and looking ahead with, really for the first time since you've been at Clemson, getting the core nucleus of your scoring back for next year?
Well, this year was a little bit of a roller coaster. We started a little bit slow, just trying to absorb the loss of KJ McDaniel, an NBA player and a guy that did so much for us. I thought it was a little bit of a struggle for us early on. I think we kind of rounded into form a little bit into December and January and played some good basketball and had a stretch where we were playing much better, made a few more shots. Our shooting was still a little bit of an issue this year and disappointed me that we didn't improve in that area a little bit more. And I think it eventually caught up to us a little bit. We lost a really heartbreaking game to Notre Dame, a top 12, 15 program down the stretch where we had a chance to win and kind of keep our NCAA tournament hopes alive. And that was part of the struggle into the finish. When we lost that game and kind of lost our NCAA tournament hopes, we didn't respond like I would have liked. Having said that, we did play with some young players, as you mentioned. Jerron Blossom game, our leading scorer and rebounder, was only a sophomore. I thought showed great improvement. I'm really excited about one of our freshmen, Dante Grantham. I think he's an outstanding talent, has a great future at Clemson, will be a really good player. We need some better play out of our center this year. Landry Noko's got to have a better year. He's got to take a bigger jump. He didn't really make the kind of jump we'd hoped from his sophomore to junior year, but we're optimistic that with another good summer that he'll have the kind of senior year that we expect in terms of becoming a double-figure scorer. And I think if he can do that, and then Avery Holmes, a young man we had sitting out this year as a transfer student from San Francisco, if he can round into shape at point guard, he's a guy that can shoot the ball a little bit behind ball screens and do some things to help us score. If he can play well, I think we'll have a chance to have a good team.
Could you explain? I guess the fans were wondering, they see a guy like Gabe DeVoe seem to come out of nowhere. Maybe took the plastic off of him and he started to play some basketball. His development late in the season, could you describe your decision to put him in late ball games that he delivered for?
Well, yeah, it was kind of a difficult situation from the standpoint of he really struggled early, and he was 1 for his first 21 in games, and really had a hard time, and he was having a hard time defensively as well for a while, and so the speed of the game and just getting comfortable, he lost his confidence a little bit, and so really he didn't play very well and didn't handle it well for the first couple months when things started to go south for him. But then about really kind of towards the end of January, he kind of woke up a little bit. I think he improved his attitude and his work ethic and just decided that you got to fight if he wants to get on the court. And then he started to play really well in practice and started to earn some minutes. He really kind of shone for the first time at Duke when we were struggling a little bit. He went into the game and played well and had 8 points and made a couple threes and just kind of played with good poise. And from there, he started to show that he has a chance to be a good player. He's a strong guard with strength and deep shooting range. And when he gets going, he can make some shots and string things together from deep. And that's something we desperately need. But his confidence was really, really shaken in December in the early part of the season. And so it was hard to get him on the court.
Talking with Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell. Coach, a quick break coming up. Can we hold you over for just a couple more minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
You got time? Great. Come back to you in just a moment. Brad Brownell, Clemson basketball coach, wrapping up the season with the Tigers. A winning season it was, just not the kind of winning season they were hoping for, but maybe something to build on in the future. We'll be back with the coach in a moment. We're back on basketball coach Brad Brownell for a couple of more minutes, and we appreciate the time, Coach. So looking ahead to next year, do you foresee the incoming duo that you've signed, Ty Hudson and Legend Robertine, can you see those guys making immediate impacts?
Hard to tell. We've got some older players at their positions. I do think Ty is a good player and a guy that was a state runner-up in Georgia this year, the highest classification, all-state player. I think he's a combo guard, can play some points certainly, and may back up Avery Holmes if Jordan Roper doesn't get some minutes there as well. Legend Robertson, again, we've got some big guys inside already, and City Jate and Renoco that probably have a little more experience, although Legend is a big guy. He's all of 7 feet and 245 right now, big, strong kid, and it would just depend on his development. It's hard to tell coming in, but I like his prospects for the future.
Will you use the one scholarship you have available right now this spring, or will you hold on to it?
Yeah, you know what? We're still kind of waiting to see. I think it's just one of those things where I might hold it for a transfer. We're only recruiting really one high school kid right now. I don't even know if we're going to go full speed on that. So we're just kind of sitting tight. We feel like we have pretty good players coming back, experience. If there's something that catches our fancy, we might do it, but otherwise we might just sit tight here a little bit. All
right. Any guys facing any sort of off-season medical procedures? Anybody have anything worked on?
No, we're really pretty healthy by and large. I think we got through the season pretty good, and we're going to get right back at workouts here. Our guys were on spring break this past week and got a chance to go home and kind of regroup, but we'll get back at it here on Monday and look forward to doing that, and hopefully everybody will be full go.
I want to ask you your reaction to the news today from Jim Boeheim that 3 more years and he's going to hang it up. Your thoughts on that?
Well, he's done a lot for college basketball. Obviously, one of the winningest coaches in all of college basketball. Incredible job that he's done with the program at Syracuse. Sometimes goes under the radar just because so much attention is given to Coach K, and rightfully so in a lot of ways. But those guys are legends of the game. We've got 4 Hall of Fame coaches in our league, and it's a privilege and challenge to coach against those guys every time. It's a lot of fun. To compete against them. Syracuse is one of the unique venues in all of college basketball, regularly playing in front of 30,000 people. It's a lot of fun to go be in that environment. Certainly a lot of that reason that they have 30,000 fans is because of the success that Jim Boeheim's done in that program.
Yeah, absolutely. Next year, besides South Carolina, do you have any other games against Power 5 conference teams outside the ACC?
Well, we're finishing up a contract with Georgia. And so we're excited about that, and that should be something that gets started. We'll probably go to Georgia next year and then hope that they'll come in and maybe open up our new building. And Mark Fox has done a great job with his program there. Obviously, the schools are close. So that would be an outstanding game to get.
Yeah, that would be a very good game. You can take fans both ways. So they can bring some, you can bring some. It'd be a great basketball rivalry. Anything else in the works? I know you've got the ACC Big Ten matchup as well, but anything else in the
well, we're in a tournament. We're in a tournament in Las Vegas where we'll play against a couple of high major teams in there as well. And as you mentioned, we're also, I think, looking to play a neutral court game. We don't know who that'll be against in Washington D.C. So we've got some good prospects for games for next year, and kind of finalizing all that here over the next month or two.
All right.
Well, I guess before you were a coach, you were a player and you were also a fan. So running that gauntlet of this new gargantuan ACC after sometimes decompress, what do you think of this new league?
Well, it's outstanding. And I tell you what's special about it is you play in some of the unique environments of all of college basketball. We actually, beat Syracuse at home this year, but last year we went to Syracuse and to play in front of 32,000 was an incredible experience. This year, first time I've gotten to go to Louisville and play in the KFC Yum Center, one of the nicest, newest facilities in all of college basketball, with a rabid fan base of, over 20,000, and they were very supportive and just a great environment. Certainly Duke and North Carolina have their own unique things that are special. Pittsburgh, a new addition to the league, we've happened to get a great road win there, and they regularly have between 14 and 16,000 for their games. And just unbelievable fan support. So there's a lot of great places in this league. Notre Dame has a great facility, very classy, and a very knowledgeable fan base. So those schools that have been new to the ACC have certainly added a lot, not only in reputation, but in what they've done here recently.
Coach, as always, we appreciate the time. Enjoy a little bit of a break that you have. Look forward to seeing you again soon, and thanks for visiting with us tonight on Sports Talk.
Okay, good to be on with you guys.
Thank you, sir. All right, Brad Brownell, Clemson basketball coach. We appreciate his time here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
Well, we're in a tournament. We're in a tournament in Las Vegas where we'll play against a couple of high major teams in there as well. And as you mentioned, we're also, I think, looking to play in a neutral court game. We don't know who that'll be against in Washington D.C. So we've got some.
Thanks again to Brad Brownell for being with us here on Sports Talk. Now to the recruiting report tonight. And Richland Northeast linebacker T.J. Brunson is very close to committing to South Carolina. Told us this afternoon that could very well happen tomorrow. He was at USC's first spring practice yesterday and left there feeling very strong about things with the Gamecocks, saying that they moved up. They were already ahead, but they lengthened their lead, enjoyed the time there. And he said every time he's been there, he's been pleased, getting closer on a decision. And he told us today it could be as early as tomorrow. Said he had a good look at how USC conducts practice, got the chance to visit with John Hoke, was impressed by him. He also has visited NC State and Florida State this spring. He plans to visit Georgia Southern next month. He might also attend USC's next junior day, had 134 tackles and 4 sacks last season. Defensive end Jordan Wood, 6'3", 250, Ocala, Florida, coming off a season of 16 sacks, 60 tackles. He's had 28 sacks over the past 2 seasons, so his pass rushing skills are making him a priority for schools, including USC. He said that USC one of the first to offer him, and he says that he'll probably take an official to USC. He has not been there yet. He went to Florida last weekend, a good first visit for him. He said the Gators are on him very hard, and growing up near Gainesville, naturally, Florida has always been a favorite, but he said his favorite coach of all time is Steve Spurrier. And he said he's a great coach, and he went to the USC Florida game in Gainesville last year to see Spurrier do his – he hears regularly from recruiter Steve Spurrier Jr. USC, Florida, and Miami are all recruiting him hard at this point. He's also been to Florida State, Georgia, and Miami. Said he will probably visit Florida State during his spring break. He'll try to visit USC this summer or for an official visit. He signed his current top list as USC, Florida, Miami, Florida State, and Georgia in no order. A couple of other notes. Wide receiver Christian Bruce from Wilson was offered by Air Force Academy. Basketball, guard Malik Ellison from up in New Jersey, who has a USC offer, picked up an offer from Wake Forest. Defensive back KJ Chamberlain from Emerald was offered by Miami of Ohio. He also has an offer from Wake Forest. Nigel Knott, defensive back from Mississippi, who recently visited Clemson, picked up an offer from the University of Oregon. And USC became the 14th offer for tight end Thaddeus Moss. Probably McKee. Thaddeus McKee Moss from Charlotte. And Clemson commitment J.C. Chalk out of Argyle, Texas, was offered by Alabama, which his grandfather is Gene Stallings, but he remains firmly committed to Clemson. And Clemson offered quarterback Connor Curry from Shreveport, Louisiana. He's a 2017 guy. There you go. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. On a Wednesday night, basketball action underway, NIT. Don't forget, Charleston Southern is playing tonight at Old Dominion.
It's a 9 o'clock tip at Old Dominion tonight.
Is that game televised anywhere?
No, you got to get that ESPN3 over.
Congratulations to Upstate. Nice win for them last night over James Madison, coming from behind in the They're in the CIT or the CBI?
By the way, I correct myself. Charleston Southern tips in the next 5 minutes.
Huh, big difference.
Yeah.
Upstate's in which one? CBI or CIT?
I think it's CIT. I'll check that.
Okay, congratulations there. And we've got some NIT games underway right now, too. Now, coming up in Columbia, it's the annual North-South All-Star Basketball Games. It's the first of 2 weekends of high school all-star basketball games in our state. Next weekend in Myrtle Beach is the Carolinas All-Star Classic. Looking forward to that. Unfortunately, P.J. Dozier's not going to be playing in it because he'll be in the National McDonald's game, which is the same weekend, or they'll be practicing, or I think that is the same weekend. So he won't be there. But another excellent collection of boys and girls from South Carolina will be there to play against North Carolina. This weekend at Irmo High School, you've got the North-South All-Star Game. And for boys and girls, beginning at 1 o'clock. You can get a lot of basketball in. The girls' game begins at 1 o'clock, and boys' game begins at 3 o'clock. And we're going to be talking in just a moment with Coach Tim Morris from Woodmont High School. He's the head coach for the North boys team. And we'll talk with him about the games this weekend, the players that are being put together for these two teams, and just about having the excitement of being around All-Stars and All-Star competition. We'll have that coming up for you here in just a little bit on Sports Talk. And we'll update some other news notes for you. We'll open up the phone lines, too, at 800-956-7266. We'll take a look at the Twitter timeline and see what people are saying there. We'll check out some email as well and some comments on our website, sportstalksc.com. So we've got a lot to do in our next hour here on Sports Talk. And we are, of course, awaiting. Well, the game is the first game underway in Dayton already tonight. Did that game tip off at 6:40?
It probably
like it did last night.
It probably has. I could
we should take a look at that and see what's happening. I was really impressed last night. Didn't see the first game.
Robert Morris is leading North Florida. The Ospreys 23-19 in the first.
Another
half.
team, South Carolina, in the regular season.
Yeah, the first game of the season.
Yeah, but really liked how Ole Miss looked last night. I got a chance to see the better part of the second half, and they were behind big early. 17 points?
17 points early in the second half,
and they rallied. And MJ Rhett had a big game.
20 his career record, 20 points, and 3 block shots.
Yeah,
Joe Rhett,
good win for the SEC.
Prodigy.
All right, Sports Talk on a Wednesday night. We got basketball breaking out all over the place, which is just fine with us. As I mentioned, it's North-South week here in Columbia. A lot of stuff going on surrounding the North-South All-Star Games. South Carolina Basketball Coaches Association do a wonderful job with this. Games to be played. Did I say Irmo earlier? I meant Lexington. Should have said Lexington High School, not Irmo. Lexington High School on Saturday. Girls game at 1 o'clock, boys game at 3 o'clock. We welcome in from Woodmont High School Coach Tim Morris. He'll be the head coach of the boys North team. Coach, how you doing?
Good evening, sir. I'm doing real well.
Appreciate you being with us, and I know you got to be excited about what's ahead, getting to work with all these outstanding players. When do you guys get together and start practicing and getting ready for the game?
Yeah, we start up tomorrow morning. We'll meet all the guys as they come in about 12 o'clock. Between 11 and 12, they come into the motel where we're having our guys stay at. And then we'll begin practice that afternoon, and then FCA puts on a banquet for us tomorrow night. And then we practice again on Friday morning and Friday afternoon. Then we have our big Hall of Fame and All-Star banquet for all the players, All-State and All-Stars across the state of South Carolina. So we got a pretty packed weekend.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of time to work these guys out, do you?
No, we don't. We just get 3 practice sessions, and we just 2 days of school is what they miss, and that's what they allow us to do. So we do as much as we can in that short amount of time. But I think we do a lot of really good things with them and for them. They're given a lot of gear, and they're given a lot of time, and college coaches will receive practice schedules so they can come in and watch some of these seniors that may be unsigned.
Yeah. Now, do you know much about your team at this point? I mean, obviously you went over them with your assistants and you selected the team, but have you had a chance really to talk to any of them, meet them in person yet, or will that all happen over the next couple of days?
Well, a lot of that will happen over the next couple of days, but I know some of them. Randall Shaw from Hillcrest, he will be one of our guards on our North team, and Ramel Brown from Greenville High. These are 2 local guys, and Buck Hosey from Woodmont High School. These are 3 that I do know already. Buck plays for me, and these other 2 we play against in our region. So I know those guys, but I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of the rest. We have another guy from Dorman, Carlos Stotson, who I know from Coach Ryan. So, yeah, we'll get a chance to get to know him over the next few days.
Do you have much size on your team?
We have 3 guys at 6'6" and 1 at 6'5". So we have good size. I'm not sure exactly if the South has anybody bigger than that. There were a couple of guys, a 6'8", 6'9" guy from AC4, and we'd like to have gotten him, but he was chosen for the South Carolina Classics game, so we didn't get to get him. He was a real good player that won as AC4 won the state championship.
Mm-hmm. How does this working with them? For years they played these games the same weekend as the Carolinas All-Star Classic down in Myrtle Beach. Now you've gone to a separate weekend. Is that working well for the coaches?
I think it is. It gives everybody a chance to see more players. We were doing them at the same time at Myrtle Beach, and then for many years we did them together in Rock Hill. Winthrop was the place where we had all that, and that began about in '98. Mm-hmm. So that was the first time we ever had the North Carolina South Carolina game. That game hasn't been around that long to kind of mimic like the Shriners game or the North Carolina South Carolina football. Mm-hmm. This is kind of that game that was put together and been talked about for a long time, but never did get it going to around, I think it was '97 or '98. So we began that game in Rock Hill, and it stayed in Rock Hill until about 2006 or 7. Then it was moved to Myrtle Beach, and then the people with the beach ball organization, they took over the South Carolina North Carolina Classics game, and Coach still runs the game that we presently have that's going on this weekend in Lexington.
Now, is this open? You mentioned guys who are looking for scholarships. Are college coaches eligible to come out and watch in person the practices and the games?
Yeah, they can come watch practices. They can come watch the games at this time. A lot of them are busy playing right now, but other coaches, assistant coaches, Division II coaches, they are allowed to be out at this time and want to come to the practices and know all about what's going on. So it's a good thing for some of our smaller schools to see these guys all at one time. They don't get that opportunity in the season. They're real busy with their season, but also they don't get to see that many players at one time in one place. So that's going to be real good because they can actually see the north squad will be practicing, and the south squad may be practicing right after us or right across over at River Bluff High School, and we also use Lexington High School to practice.
Now, of course, the cream of the crop players, they're in the South Carolina, North Carolina Classic game, but how good will the quality of play be in your game, you think, with the players that you'll have and the South will have?
I think that it'll be really good. We didn't get some of the ones I'd like to have been able to choose were not allowed because they were already chosen by the South Carolina team. But over the years I've been involved with this game and know about it, I've seen a lot of good players that possibly could have been in the South Carolina game that were chosen for our squad. So I think we should get some really good players. You're talking about a kid like Randall Shaw, who's played for the state championship the past 2 years at Hillcrest. He'll be in our game, and Carlos Dotson, who's plays at Gorman. He's another big guy in our game. So I think the quality is going to be very good. We had a game this past weekend between Spartanburg County All-Stars versus Greenville County All-Stars. And our Greenville County team started Jalen Williams and Tyler Hooker, and they are both playing in the big game this weekend. And it also started Buck Hosen, who's playing in our game. So I think we got some really good talent here. And Andrew Brown was also in that game, and he's in the South Carolina game.
Will your practices be open? Will your practices be open to the public? Can fans go in and watch you guys work out?
Fans are allowed to come in. We've never had that many fans come, simply because I don't know how many could actually come in and watch it. But there've been a few people come in bout but the practice is during the daytime when a lot of people work, and so. But I had a few parents stick their head in the door and watch us practice. But mainly just college coaches. It's there for them to get a look at what they could possibly sign, because we have several seniors that are unsigned. And I've been sitting here watching the game, North Florida game that's on TV right now, the NCAA playing game. They have a kid from Chapman High School. Jalen Nesbitt, who once played in these games. And last night, sat up late watching the game, and Ole Miss had that kid, MJ Red. They had him, and he played in this game. Well, he played in the North Carolina South Carolina game back when he was in high school, 2010. I remember because we played Lower Richland in the second round of the playoffs, and I was watching. I said, that kid looks familiar. Sure enough, it was the guy that we played against, and he played in the North Carolina South Carolina game. So I think our state has a lot of great basketball talent. And just seeing two on TV in the last 24 hours tells me a lot about what good basketball players we have.
You're exactly right. And let's tell everybody once again, it's on Saturday at Lexington High School. Girls game at 1 o'clock, boys game at 3 o'clock. And you can see some really good high school basketball this coming weekend, the next weekend at the beach for the Carolinas All-Star Classic games. Coach, thank you very much. We appreciate the visit, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much, and let's go South Carolina basketball.
All right, sir. Thank you. Tim Morris from Woodmont High School. And he's right. There's good high school basketball in our state. You know, we really don't do a high school basketball justice in our state because our attention is so much focused on football. But the Columbia area, as we well know this year, and the Greenville area as well, producing some pretty high-level basketball talent. The Low Country has had its share of talent. I'm just looking at some of the coaches who are sending players to this game, like Lamar's coach is Michael Hamlin, the former Clemson NFL defensive back. Melvin Watson, former Gamecock at South Point, he's got a player in the game. We got outstanding coaches. We got outstanding players throughout the state. Back in a moment. Once again, thanks to Coach Tim Morris for being with us. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to hear from USC baseball coach Chad Holbrook. Gamecocks hitting the road for Missouri, second SEC series of the season. He met with the media today before the Gamecocks prepared to head west to Columbia, Missouri. We got to talk about this story, and here is the story. This is from the Post and Courier down in Charleston. A proposal that would force private schools to play up a class in South Carolina High School League is making its way through the process. The South Carolina Athletic Administrator Association's legislative body voted this week to force private and charter schools to compete at a higher level than is mandated by the high school league's method of classification by enrollment. The poll of the state's 32 regions resulted in a 29-3 vote in favor of forcing private schools such as Bishop England, Christ Church, St. Joseph's Catholic, and Southside Christian to compete one class higher than the individual schools' enrollment figures would dictate. And of course, this is being met with outrage from those at the private school level. For example, Bishop England currently is a AA school, be forced to compete in 3A. The other three schools, all in Greenville County, would be bumped from Class A to AA. The proposal, should it stand, would take effect for the 2016-17 year. However, there could be legal challenges to the ruling. The move may once again drag the state legislature into the fray. Well, very interesting, very interesting.
Reasoning.
The major push to force the change came from the upper state and was more directed to three private schools in Greenville, though Bishop England has been the target of criticism, blah, blah, blah. You know, I think something needs to be done. This might be a way of leveling the playing field. As someone who is a graduate of a public school and still supports his old alma mater, which is a 1A public school, it's not fair for those schools to have to play private schools that can attract students who become athletes from many, many miles away. When you're,
you mean recruit?
Well, I'm saying attract students. They get students from many, many miles away, and they become athletes.
Right.
The pool is much larger than your basic. Let's just use single A for an example, than what your basic single A school can dip into, and it's not a fair playing field.
Yeah, no, they're not limited by district boundaries.
Right, and that's why it's, with all due respect to Bishop England and Christ Church, they have some very good coaches there and some very good athletes, but they don't have that much superior coaches to win. The football team at Christ Church has won what, like
well, they've
6
got
million games in a row
record for the winning streak now. Yeah,
I mean, that, a little.
But I will say this: I mean, they have a great coaching staff, but they also have resources that your normal 1A school that size enrollment does not have. They can't afford the size of the coaching staff they have. They don't have the support people. They don't have the fan base, so to speak, monetarily
the boost
that school has. We'll talk more about this in a moment. right, back to this story we're talking about. Private schools in South Carolina facing the possibility of having to play up a class, not based on their enrollment figures, but based on the fact that they are private schools and perceived to have an edge over similar public schools in terms of attracting students and athletes. I don't want to use the R word because I've discussed this with private school coaches before. And look, I respect private school coaches.
Sure.
They're excellent coaches. They work hard and do all the right things from that standpoint. But the fact of the matter is that because of their situation in the private school world, they have advantages over their competition that shouldn't be allowed in the setting of a league. You know, it'd be like in the NFL, allowing the New England Patriots to have, 53 players on the roster, but the Jets can only have 45. I mean, it's, you can't have those kind of advantages if you're going to have yourself a fair and balanced league. And that's why the high school league is broken up into classes so that you can have similar sized schools competing against one another. That's why we've divided up the football championships into so many classes and divisions so we can be fair and give more schools a chance to win championships. But, when you trot out a Lakeview or I hate to use Latta as an example since that's my alma mater, but if you trot out a Lakeview or, a Green Sea Floyd's, whatever the case may be, these small 1A schools, a Lamar, and you throw them up against, in football, you throw them up against a Christ Church, they got no chance. They got no chance. And it's been proven on the football field here year in, year out. Same thing in the just look at all the other sports. Who won? Let's see. Latta girls lost in the 1A state championship game this year to I think it was Christ Church. Christ Church. Yeah, and it blew out. And
my dad used to say when teams play Notre Dame or teams like Christ Church, he said, "Well, I can't beat you in your prayers too."
So I think something needs to be done. If this is the answer, then so be it. Still, I imagine that the new classes that inherit these teams aren't going to be happy about it either. But and the private schools won't be happy about moving up and playing against teams that have greater size student body to choose from. But I mean, if you're going to be allowed to attract athletes from 50, 60 miles away, as some of these schools do, maybe even farther away than that, versus a school that has a district of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 miles around it, or 10 miles, and that's what they have to choose from, then maybe that's the way to balance it out.
Yeah, I think you're correct in that. And let's face it, some of these schools now offer what amounts to scholarships because their tuition is a little bit higher, and they offer aid and that sort of thing, something that a public school cannot do. By the way, while we were talking, Charleston Southern went on an 8-2 run. And now it was 12-11, and now I see that ODU is going on a 5-0 run. So now the score is 17-11 ODU midway through the first half in this NIT battle up in Virginia.
All right, so we'll see where this goes. Apparently, it does have some legs, and as this story says, it was voted in favor of 29-3 in a poll of the state's 32 regions. There could be some legal maneuvering, however, to jump into this thing and tie it up in the courts or force the General Assembly to jump back into it as well. So we'll see what happens. But I'm in favor of something. I'm not opposed. I admire the private schools who want to step into the high school league and compete. They want to play at the highest level available to them. I get that. I'd love to see Hammond in Columbia move into the high school league and Heathwood Hall move into the high school league and play, week in and week out against those teams and day in and day out against those teams. That'd be fine.
Mm-hmm. For basketball in Indiana, don't they do that? They don't go by class. When they go to the
their state tournament. But I don't know if they have a private school and a public school setting or not. I don't know about that. But then if you start doing that, then you might just say this might be like an AFL, NFL, just merge them all together and just have one league.
Yeah. They did in the old Indiana, then they just have everybody play.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just a
that's what
state
you're
tournament.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, basketball.
So we'll see where this leads. I think it is good that they are addressing this and plan to do something about it over the complaints of some of these the private schools that are going to be affected by this. Any thoughts? 800-956-7266 is the number. K-Mac, what's happening on our Twitter timeline? What are people? Obviously, people are talking a lot about, I imagine, a couple of things. The basketball tournament and the start of Gamecock spring practice.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting excited and getting in on the Bojangles Bracket Buster, too. A lot of people, hundreds of people have now signed up for our tournament. So we're excited to compete against the best of the best in this talk crowd. If you haven't done that, you still can. It's powered by ESPN. Just search Bojangles Bracket Buster or go to our Twitter feed or our Facebook page at SportsTalk SC or SportsTalkSC.com and find a link. Here's a tweet from Bo on Brad Brownell saying that he has never-ending excuses. Surprisingly, Clemson fans fall for it, setting himself up for another half-decade before he is responsible. I mean, I don't know what excuses he's made. I mean, Brad Brownell has done pretty well since he's arrived at Clemson. He went to the NCAA tournament and won a game. He went to the NIT final last year. They had a winning record this year. Each of his seasons, they've lost their best players. You know, he lost DeMontez Stitt and Trevor Booker. And the next year he lost Milton Jennings and but
everybody loses their best player.
Well, not every. I mean, not every year. Sometimes you have a guy. Like this year he won't. He'll have Jerron Blossom game back. He'll have Jordan Roper back.
Dante Grantham.
Yeah, Dante Grantham. He's going to have his nucleus back. Normally you don't lose 80% of your scoring every year unless you're Kentucky or North Carolina.
He does lose Rod Hall. He does lose Harrison, and they accounted for. Rod Hall had the big game in the tournament. He had 25. He wasn't the leading scorer. High. He does have Blossom game back. He was the team leading scorer. And he's the next guy that could step up at Clemson and be a great player for them. I think Grantham has got tons of talent. He drifted off the last half of the season. His shot went away. He really couldn't score very much.
High school wall. He hit the high school wall.
Maybe so, but he certainly has to build on that and improve on that if he's going to take his game up to the next level next year. Let's jump to the phones and go to Slick in 96. Hello, Slick. Last time I talked to a guy named Slick, he was looking for some money.
Two things I want to touch on. First of all, Phil, you're a big-time Yankee fan, just like I am. 69 years of it. I can't remember not ever being a Yankee fan. And we might be a little off this year, but we've got a great group of younger players in the farm system. Pitching and fielding and hitting. And the new leader of the team right now is our Holly Hill boy, Brett Gardner. I'd like to have some comments from you on that as well. The main thing I'm calling about is the Carolina ladies basketball team. I have never in my life seen a college team, well, I'm speaking actually Carolina, never seen a team sport as dominating as those ladies have been this year. I mean, truly just dominating. Now, if you're an opposing coach and you're already losing early in the game, I can imagine how depressing it is to see the first two subs coming in being Elena Coates and Asia Wilson. I'll hop off the horn now and hear you guys.
Well put. Well put. They're deep. They're talented. And, when you can afford to bring those two in off the bench, it tells you just how deep and talented you are. And, they've dominated most of the teams that they played this year, with the exception, of course, Kentucky once and Connecticut once. Outside of that, they've pretty much been in charge every time out. Yankee-wise, I'm a little bit optimistic about this year. Hearing good things about Rodriguez in camp so far. He played some third base yesterday, made a great play down there on one hard-hit ground ball, hitting the ball well. Sabathia had his first start of the spring yesterday and felt good. The knee and everything apparently feels pretty good. The arm feels good. Still have some question marks in the starting rotation, however, for the Yankees, and that'll be the number one thing they have to solve coming out of spring training. Thanks for the call. We've made a production decision here on Sports Talk. We're going to hold Chad Holbrook over to tomorrow night. They don't play till Friday, so it gives you ample time to hear from him and get prepared for USC and Missouri in the SEC this weekend. What you got, Pro?
I was about to say,
Charleston Southern must be on some big run. You're just
not a
dying to
big
say
run.
something.
I'm looking at an individual here. Already he's hit 3 3-pointers. Saad Nimbley has 15 of Charleston Southern's 25 points.
What's the score
as
overall?
they lead? It is 25 all. And Saad Nimbley has hit 5 of his first 6 shots. 3 are 3-pointers, and he's hit a few
As they
free throws.
say about Saad Nimbley, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him.
That's true.
Yes.
By the way, I think I just retweeted this. South Carolina football has published a video of their winter workouts. You know, Clemson's very famous for these sort of things. I'm going to retweet it again. I don't think it went out the first time. So those of you who follow us on our timeline, check out the video produced by USC's football production crew, showing the Gamecocks in their winter workouts, lifting lots of weights, running lots of sprints, doing lots of other football-related stuff in slow motion and with all sort of effects added to the video to make it look even more manly than it maybe actually is, if that's possible for football.
Like the sweat dropping.
They don't make
very
them look
slowly.
weak. They're not going to show a guy like struggling to get up above 20.
They showed one guy. I thought it was Sky Moore. You said
Didn't
it
look
was
like Sky Moore.
But he must have lifted about 300 pounds. I mean, that bar was just bending, and it had a ton of weight on it. Check it out. It's just been put out by USC football. I want to talk about this, too, while we're talking about football. These retirements in the NFL concern me. These young guys under the age of 30, we've had 5 of them now to announce their retirement because they're concerned about concussion and head injuries and the lasting effect of that. And what is football going to do? We can't panic over five people when you've got thousands of people still playing football at all levels. But, you're a young guy, you're a parent, and you see professional athletes walking away from multi-million-dollar contracts because they're fearful about what the rest of life is going to be like if they continue to play football at the NFL level. I mean, what do we do? What does football have to do to change this perception that's out there now? And not only change the perception, but change the reality. The reality is that constant blows to the head will do damage.
Yes.
So what is football going to have to do to change that reality?
I mean, they're trying to do things now where you're seeing more penalties called, the targeting penalties and the defenseless player penalties, all those sorts of things, and the protocols, the concussion tests where you have to do certain things to get back out on the field to stop games. So they are, at least now they're acknowledging the issue we're addressing, whereas 10 years ago even it was, hey, it's football.
Yeah.
Of course you're gonna, you get your bell rung every now and then. We can't, at least now they're having the conversation. They're finding ways to make the game safer, and I think that's good. I mean, you're never gonna make it. It's never going to be perfectly safe.
No.
I mean, it's a dangerous game.
I still say, look at NASCAR. What killed more drivers in NASCAR than anything else?
The wall.
The wall. Why?
Because it
the
was made of
wall
cement.
didn't give.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, head trauma in football, you got to look at the helmet. You got to do more. And I'm sorry, we love the beautiful, shiny, slick helmet, but look at what they're wearing in practice now. And they're putting these caps on these helmets to
So they
cut
don't get
down on the
concussions. Right.
Well, if it's good enough for practice, why isn't it used in a game? When guys are running, first of all, they're in a lot more plays than they are in practice, because practice, you're standing around the sideline. You might go in for a few minutes and you're back on the sideline. Football, you're out there 45, 50 plays, depending on whether you're on offense or defense and how much your unit's out there. But, sacrifice the beauty and the look of the helmet by putting something else on there and do something to soften the blow. I've had coaches say, if you soften the helmet, that's not the answer, because the slick helmet, this is what they tell me, the slick hard shell helmet, when they hit, they don't stick, and the energy, you soften the helmet, the moments are going to tend to stick, and the energy is going to be centralized, and you're going to take more of a blow. There's got to be a way of putting some sort of a softer protection on the helmet that eliminates that. We got all kind of scientists out there.
They're working on it. I mean, I think that at least they're heading in that direction now. They're doing the mouthpieces that are monitoring the hits, and they're going to see where the biggest collisions are.
I still say that the answer is right there in front of them. Who suffered more concussions in the 70s than Larry Sonka? They made a helmet for him where there was water pockets. They put water in there. Every time he got hit, the helmet would just move like this because he had water bags in.
After watching this Gamecock football video, I'm just all fired up. I need to go out and run a marathon.
Do it.
They've got me all pumped.
Do it. Run home.
Steve Spurrier was interviewed by Paul Meyerberg of USA Today and took a couple of shots at Tennessee. This has made it out on Twitter. According to Meyerberg, he writes, HBC called 7-6 in 2014, quote, a decent year, end quote. Then, quote, in Knoxville, they're still doing cartwheels because they went 7-6 and won a bowl game, end of quote.
Yeah, it's talking season. Talking season has officially begun for Steve Spurrier. Although, I mean, you want to jab the team that's knocked you off each of the past 2 years in the last seconds of the game. That's maybe put your ire towards the teams that you beat in the past couple of years.
Well,
Georgia, that's fine, fair game.
Home state, though. This is home state.
Yeah. I mean, but, Tennessee can go, yeah, one of those 7 wins was you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You remember that 14-point lead you blew with 2 minutes?
That's
Thank you. That was an impressive game.
This is true.
After Butch Jones dressed all his defensive coaches down for having, 10 players on the
I don't think I could live another 100 years. I don't know that I'll ever see another game like that one. That was
weird.
That was one for the books.
The Tennessee game.
Yeah.
Very similar to Missouri game. You saw two very similar games.
But the way, Tennessee was onside kicking, didn't get it. The Gamecocks had a long time. The game was mathematically should have been over almost. I mean, statistically, they had about a 95% probability of winning that game with 2 minutes left, and they lost. You're up 14 with 2 minutes to play. It's very hard to lose.
Then it's strange when the Florida game turns out because everything went their way in the last few minutes of that game.
I'm reading some responses from Tennessee fans here on to Spurrier.
I'm sure they tickled.
Here's one. She writes, Steve Spurrier's troll game is in midseason form.
Yes, it is.
This guy writes, Steve Spurrier still butthurt. Here's another one that's pretty good. This guy writes, Steve Spurrier is like a one-armed grenade thrower. They both hung on too long. Go Vols. Let's see if there's anything else in here. That's good. You can check it out yourself.
He's going to get to make one more trek, at least one more trek up to Rocky Top. That'll be interesting.
Holbrook, we didn't play Holbrook yet. We'll play him tomorrow, but he said that Max Schrock is expected to play this weekend.
Yeah.
He was out with a virus.
Yeah, he was back in the ballpark today.
Yeah, it's pretty sick last night, but apparently we'll be okay. All right, what you got on the hoops?
Well, Charleston Southern apparently has gotten their sea legs. They were down 10-3 to start the game, but with a minute to go in the half, it's 33-27. Charleston Southern leading Old Dominion on the road in the NIT.
All right. Anything else? Any other scores of interest? How about that Dayton and Boise? Well, no, who's playing the first game in Dayton?
Robert Morris said North Florida is leading 44-38 over Robert Morris. Arizona State at UConn, leading UConn 37-24. They're without their star senior guard Boatwright tonight, who was injured in their conference tournament championship game.
Matt Driscoll, North Florida. Ospreys getting it done. All right, that'll do it for tonight's edition of Sports Talk. Thank you for being with us. Think about everything we talked about, and we'll talk about it some more tomorrow night when the tournament is officially off and running. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.